there, Stampers. It's Jackie Bolhuis from Klompen Stampers. Today I have another video in this kind of mini series that I'm doing, talking about all the basics of card making, everything you need to know to be successful in card making. We've talked about stamps and tips for different types of stamps. We've talked about inks and papers. Can't even remember, to be honest, because today we're talking about embossing, heat embossing. Embossing kind of has two terms. There's the dry embossing, or when you use an embossing folder through a die cutting machine, or there's the heat embossing, which gives you that nice shiny raised edge. That's what we're going to do today. I love to do it for my greetings. You see a lot of my cards that I will heat emboss white on black cardstock. I love that look. It makes your greeting pop. So of course I got to do a card using that. But then I'm going to show you another way that you can heat emboss and get that nice shiny look using any of your Stampin' Up! Pads, any color. Did you know you could do that? I've got a little trick to share with you. So lots of info to cover today. And so this is learning, lots of tips, but we'll make a fun card along the way. So hang on a second, let's flip the camera down and let's get to work. Just so I can clear off my desk a little bit, I'm gonna show you the products we're gonna use and then we're gonna dive in. I am using some of this beautiful black designer series paper. These prints are amazing. We all love black and white. This is the All Together designer series paper, which is part of a collection that is something new. It's not in the catalog. So make sure you check out my website for the details. Speaking of that, down in the link of this video down in the description of this video will be a link, that's a mouthful, that you can follow to a blog post that goes with what I'm sharing with you today. And it will show you all the products I've used, as well as the card I made, and then the dimensions and everything you need to create that card yourself if you would like to. So make sure to check that out for details. And then if you'd like to place an order for any of these products, you can do that over there as well. Okay, the paper. Hello, Ladybug. I've had this stamp set and punch for a while now, and I am so thrilled to finally haul it out and share with you. And it works perfect for me to show you some embossing. So let's just kind of get that out of the way here so we have room. So let's dive into white embossing on black. You will see me do that all the time. Or you could have a different color of dark cardstock for your project to do this with as well. Now, with white powder, I like to use my Versamark. It is essentially a clear ink. It's a little bit sticky and it's slow to dry. So this powder will stick really good to it. Some people prefer to use the white craft and put clear powder on it. And yeah, that works, but it is not nearly as white. So my preference is Versamark with white powder. So we're gonna just start by inking up our stamp here. And I just have a scrap of my black. We're gonna hold that for just a second, make sure that ink transfers. You can't really see anything. And then we're gonna take some of that white powder, and you always wanna dump it on, cover it good, and then just tap off the extra. So that part is done. Now you need to do that relatively quick. You don't want that ink drying on you because you want that powder to stick. Then our next step, and we're gonna cover up our powder here or it'll blow everywhere, is to take our heat tool, and I always turn mine on the second setting, make it as powerful as I can. Let it heat up if you haven't used it in a while. And then we're going to just move it around on here. And you'll see once this starts, it usually starts at one end and it'll turn shiny. And then it'll just spread. And you'll see that in a second here. There we go. See over here on the Y, there it goes. And now as we keep moving this heat source, I like to watch it just kind of spread its way across my piece of cardstock here. Once it is all shiny, you want to move that heat source and be done with it. If you hold that heat source on there after it's already turned shiny, it'll kind of flatten out and dull out. It's kind of like when it's done, it's done. So make sure to do that. Okay, our greeting. Now we are going to end up using our Stampin' Cut and Die machine and the stitched rectangle dies to cut that out. But I'm gonna just set that aside for a second and move right into our ladybug. So first, let's do the black body. Now this I'm not gonna emboss, so we're kind of going back and forth here between embossing and not embossing. So let's stamp our ladybug. Now before I do that, and I show you this quite often with punches, we have two different images on this punch. So I want to make sure to see when I put this in here, my scrap, where's my ladybug gonna punch? And it's over on this side, and then that gives me the least amount of waste, and it's upside down, because if I do it the other way, it won't punch as easy. So we're just gonna stamp that. This is a super bold punch or stamp, so I gave it some really good pressure and held it there for a while because I wanted it to be as dark as I could get that black. Now let's come in here and line that up in our punch. And pieces start flying. So there's our ladybug. Let's set that aside. And now let's set another scrap here. We are going to do our wings. And for this, we want our real red. Ladybugs are black and red, right? Now again, look at your punch. It looks like here I want to stamp on this side, and I want my wings to go that way. Okay, so it matches up easily on that punch. Now for this, oops, I put it in the ink. I need to clean that first. So there is my lesson that I really wanted to share with you. Don't ink it yet. The first thing you want to do is ink this stamp with Versamark, okay, just like we did with that greeting. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to ink it up with real red, just like I would. Let's get our clear powder ready here. So ink it up just like we normally would. This won't hurt your pads. I've done this for years and years and years. What that Versamark does is make that ink a little bit sticky and a little bit slower to dry. And then we can go ahead and hopefully that's on there. Put some clear powder on there. You know, if your pads are super juicy and super wet, if you work really fast, sometimes you can get it to work. But if it doesn't, it's because that ink just dries too soon. These pads, a dye-based ink pad is not meant to be embossed. So by going Versamark, and then real red, just make sure your stamp's clean on the Versamark. And then we add the clear powder, we're able to emboss this. So we'll heat it up the same way. And I'm gonna show you one more little trick here. As this heats up, because I want it really, really glossy and thick on there. So when it's still warm, so as soon as that's all heated, I turn my heat gun off and I'm gonna put more clear powder. This powder will stick to that embossing if it stayed warm enough. Looks like it didn't move quite fast enough. You have to really work fast on this because you want it to stick to that heated in powder. So let's try it one more time. Oh, that one worked much better. And what that's doing is that powder is just sticking to the heated powder, embossing on there. And that'll just give you more layers of that nice clear look on there. Okay, we're gonna stop with that. I think we did 3 layers on there. But can you see that nice shine? And it's a little bit thick, which is what I wanted. Now, before we punch this out, there is a stamp in this set that gives us our black little dots. Now, I purposefully did not do this before I embossed because I didn't want these embossed. So we're gonna line that up, stick it in there, and you'll see it almost beaded a little bit, and I'm gonna dab some of that off because there probably was a little bit of embossing powder that stuck down in there, but that's okay. I still have black dots. If they're not dark enough, if you want to try to get them a little bit darker, I could restamp it. So let's just show you that. Line it up. Oop, I think that's a little bit darker. And again, because a little bit of that hit that embossing, I want to dab it off because otherwise it's not going to dry and it's going to get on your hands and you're going to have a mess. Okay, now we can use our punch to punch that out. So just to review what we did so far, with that white powder, we used Versamark ink. Our color came from the powder. With this, I used Versamark first and then my real red so that I could emboss with that real red. Still use clear powder instead of white powder. And now you're seeing that red shine through. Okay, let's set that aside. Let's work on our card because we really want to see a card, right? So I have a piece here that is already cut with a rectangle die, a piece of basic white. And let's just stamp a few images. This card is actually going to be super easy. We're going to use the big leaf. I don't know what kind of a plant or tree that's from, but we're going to use that. And then I've got Daffodil Delight. Let's add a couple of flowers, just, you know, ladybugs and summer. Who else is wishing it was summer right now? And let's just add a few of those like so. And now let's take our ladybug and put it together. I am going to use a mini dimensional here on the wings. So let's flip that over because I don't want this stuck down like really hard or secure. I want it to pop up a little bit but have a little play in it. So I put 2 minis on there. With the minis, I always use my little pokey end here to pop off that backing because I struggle with that. It's a great little trick. Then we can take our wings and we're going to stick them on there. But this is where, so they're stuck right here, but you can kind of play with them and bend them up a little bit. And then we'll take some regular size dimensionals to put underneath our ladybug so that that's popping off our card as well. So let's do that. You can actually use this pokey end on big ones too if you want to, if you struggle getting those off. So let's just stick our little ladybug right there like so. And now I'm gonna run over to my cut and emboss machine and cut this out for you. There we go. And so let's flip that over and put a couple of dimensionals on the back of this. I think regular, looks like I got a couple little smudges from ink on my fingers. It probably came from that embossing. So you do need to be really careful because when that ink does go on that embossing, it's not gonna dry. So that's okay. Let's go ahead and we'll stick the "you can bug me anytime" on there. And then we're ready to complete our card. I have a piece, ooh, what side do we want? That side. Oh, I think I like, let's try that one. And I'll show you why here in a second. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna actually put this on a layer of basic white. This is kind of my new little craze lately. I love to use basic white as a layering piece. And then with this one, let's put dimensionals on. Let's really get things popping up here. So let's stick those on there. This ladybug is just so stinking cute. I'm kind of sad I only have one sample to share with you, but I'm sure I will have many more to come because now that I've played with it, it's like, ooh, I like it. Okay, so there's the focal point of our card. Now, what do we think? We could, and I'll show you my sample in a second. I actually put it on a white base for my sample. But as I was cutting cardstock for the video, I thought, I kind of like the crumb cake. I think it really makes things pop. So let's use that. And then you'll be able to see my finished sample, my trial run before I started doing the video. And you can decide which background you like better. So there's crumb cake. Now, the thing with crumb cake, if you are any colored stamp, cardstock, I like to put a piece of basic white inside. This is 4 by 5 1/4. I actually have a whole stack of these. I cut a ton of them at one time because I use them so often on the insides of my cards. Now, it's just kind of a personal preference of mine, but let's go ahead and let's put a ladybug in this inside. You know, you want to make the insides of your cards look cute, just like the outside. So let's do that. And I told you, these guys are so cute. If you saw my mess, you would probably laugh. Okay, so let's go ahead and stamp the red body right on there and we'll call it good. And then I took 2 separate greeting stamps here and it says, "Hello, my friend." And I put them both on one block. Okay, because I was going to stamp both of them. I thought, we might as well just put them on there one at the same time. So we can do that. And then just to kind of coordinate a little bit with the front, let's add a couple of flowers. And there is the inside. So we can stick some adhesive on that. Now, just to kind of go back to where we started, remember this video was really about teaching you the basics of heat embossing. So on the front here, we use Versamark with white powder for our greeting. And then our wings, I stamped in Versamark first, inked it up in Versamark, then immediately inked it up in real red. So it's kind of like 2 coats of ink, so to speak, on the stamp. Then I stamped it and put clear powder on it. So that is a way to emboss any of your Stampin' Up! Colors. So when you want that pretty shiny look, that is how you do it. Now don't forget, stamp the envelope too. We don't want to be sending naked envelopes. So there is our completed card. Now let me just show you. Here was my first version. And I did put it on a white background. And I used a different print from that black paper. So you can just kind of see the difference there. Which one do you like best? I would love to hear. Leave me a comment. So thank you, friends, for tuning in today. I hope you learned some tips about heat embossing. It is simple, and it gives your card a nice little pop. I also hope you like the card. This Hello Ladybug stamp and punch is just adorable. Now that we're heading into spring soon, it'll be just a fun set to use all summer long. As always, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I am here to help you in any way that I can. Leave me a comment or use that link that's down in the description of the video, and it will take you over to my website, and you can contact me there as well. And that'll be where you also find all the supplies I use, pictures of these cards, as well as the card recipe that will give you all of the measurements. So I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned some things, and I'll be stamping with you again real soon. Have a stamp happy day.